And in this case, the data included those who had been hired in the past. So this is why I say the past dwells within our data. So if you had a pattern of hiring a certain type of person for that role, and somebody who didn't look like that person came in, even if they were qualified, that's where you get the algorithmic discrimination. But now, instead of the gatekeeper you might think is racist or sexist, you've traded in that human gatekeeper for an algorithmic gatekeeper that we're assuming to be neutral, but is actually embedded with all of the prejudice of the past.
Queued up my next question, which is just what are some of the ways that this algorithmic bias issue and discrimination is impacting everyday people today? So not just the Tom Hanks of the world, but people, everyday people.
Yeah, so AI systems are being used to determine who's hired and who's fired. So it's impacting economic opportunity. AI systems are at times used in admissions processes. So it's impacting educational opportunities. Within education, you have e-proctoring tools that are being used. We have reports of students putting on flashlights, trying to be recognizable to take a test online. You also have a situation of AI against AI. So teachers are worried about students perhaps cheating with AI systems, so then other people will offer a tool to try to detect cheating. Studies of these types of tools have actually shown they're biased against people with English as a second language. And so what's being flagged isn't necessarily that someone has done something wrong, but they don't fit a norm that's been defined by somebody else. You can be excoded if you don't get the right organ transplant, or if AI systems are used as part of triage, or if AI systems are used to determine the amount of insurance you have and how long it will cover your condition. And so we continue to see many ways, whether it's from employment to education, healthcare. You also have tenant screening algorithms, right? And AI systems being used to inform mortgage decisions. So it's impacting housing. So just about every major area of life you can think about, we're seeing the adoption of AI systems. And with that adoption comes the risk or reality of algorithmic discrimination, algorithmic bias, and AI harm.
I just want to double click on that a little. And can you just walk us through one of those examples and what this actually looks like? So let's take the example of employment.
Yes. So would love to talk about, let's say, just resumes. So Amazon had an internal recruiting tool, and it was meant to screen resumes to see who would get a position, right? Mm-hmm. As they were going and testing that tool, they saw that it systematically excluded women. So if you had something like a women's college listed, that was not going to help your case. And try as they might, they actually weren't able to get rid of that bias. So the question is why? What's happening? So when we're looking at the types of AI systems that are being adopted, they're often based on machine learning. Machine learning? Machine learning means machines, AI systems learning from data. And in this case, the data included those who had been hired in the past. So this is why I say the past dwells within our data. So if you had a pattern of hiring a certain type of person for that role, and somebody who didn't look like that person came in, even if they were qualified, that's where you get the algorithmic discrimination. But now, instead of the gatekeeper you might think is racist or sexist, you've traded in that human gatekeeper for an algorithmic gatekeeper that we're assuming to be neutral, but is actually embedded with all of the prejudice of the past. And it's even harder to push back against that, right? Who do you go to HR? When it's the AI system. So that's just one example of past decisions being embedded into the technologies that are meant to put us into the future.
Very scary. But since we know this, we've known this for years. how can we utilize AI to interrupt and break these patterns, to actually fix the issue of discrimination, utilizing AI technology?
What I've learned over my work is we have to not use AI to combat AI, but keep in mind the human. And this is part of why I brought up that example of the AI trying to detect who's cheating
Mm-hmm.
or not. Because oftentimes when we create that counter AI, it still builds in its own types of biases. So my process, especially when I was looking at facial recognition technology initially, I was like, oh, it's a technical problem. It's
Right.
not as accurate. The
There
data
must be a
centers,
technical solution.
exactly. Let's go collect more data. But even to do that, I ran into issues, right? Because you have to think about privacy and consent. So if you're going to get that data, did you get permission? After my research came out, Google reportedly hired, a firm to diversify their data sets, and that firm was reportedly getting the faces of homeless people within that data set. So that's why I'm always cautious about, okay, let's use AI to combat AI and really think, what are the structural issues we're trying to address? Because we can't do, as Dr. Ruman Chandri calls it, moral outsourcing, right? So we want to say like, oh, AI can solve poverty, but it's really getting at the power dynamics. AI can solve climate change. It's not just knowing climate change is happening, it's actually getting people to make different decisions or getting companies to make different decisions. And so as tempting as it is, and I was very tempted, right, as a computer scientist, to want the AI tool to be the answer, we have to be the answer. And that requires being reflective. That requires making hard decisions.
Can't nobody stop. Everyone turn on your facial recognition block. We're here to make a plan. Can't nobody stop. Everyone turn on your facial recognition block. We're here to make a plan. Can't nobody stop.